lecture season is officially in progress, aka school is back in session.
Bring your torches and pitchforks!
Hi there, welcome to Nightingale Reviews. I'm Bailey, and today I will be doing my August wrap-up. Since school started in August, I didn't have a lot of time to read. Now that school started, I won't get to read that much. So this is just sort of, depressing. And the weekend that I'm filming this is homecoming, and when everyone else is getting ready to go to the dance, I'm filming this video. I'm going to stay home and read tonight, instead of partying in the gym by myself.
Good choice, Bailey.
So the first book that I read and finished in August was Where She Went by Gail Forman, which is the second book in the If I Stay duology. I love this book 10 times more than If I Stay. There was so much hype surrounding it. It was just okay to me. The second one I thought was absolutely amazing.
It had an HEA in my happily ever afters, making me so happy. So happy.
So this book got a 5 out of 5 stars from me. I loved the back and forth between what's happening now and right after the ending of the last book. I love how Adam is so broken and how you just see how he came to be and then almost like he's being mended throughout the book. I thought it was brilliant and remarkable, and it's just...
It's the HEA, what can I say?
The second book that I read was Inuyasha Volume 3 Good Intentions by Rumiko Takahashi.
Yes.
And I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. It follows this half-demon, half-boy called Inuyasha, and he's back in the feudal era in Japan, and he fell in love with the priestess, and then something happened between him and the priestess, where the priestess struck him to a tree, and he sort of went under a magic spell. Back to modern times in Japan, and there's this girl named Kagome, and she falls down this magical well, and she finds Inuyasha stuck to the tree, and from there, she unhooks him from the tree, and it turns out she is this person that Inuyasha loved previously. Kagome is her reincarnation. And from there, the two go sort of on this adventure. The Shikan Jewel plays a huge part in this story. It's Kagome's job to protect it. It kind of like exploded into little million pieces, and so she has to go collect all the pieces along with Inuyasha and this whole gang of characters who are just so lovely and amusing to read about. It's a really fun story, and throughout you just kind of see the relationship between Inuyasha and Kagome grow. And Inuyasha's very bad at wanting to help humans. He can't relate to them, can't relate to demons because he's in the middle, and so he's sort of an outcast, and this is him like learning to love again. But I will be honest, I like the anime adaptation more than I like the manga. I think simply just because of the visuals. But if you're into humor, comedy, feudal Japan, demons, monsters, priestesses, and wacky adventures,
And this book series is for you. Made specifically for you.
The next book that I read was the first book that I read in the Booktubeathon, which is Nobel Jeans by Rune Michaels. This book follows a boy who only has a mother in his life. He doesn't know who his father is, and she tells him that she went to the sperm bank and that he is part Nobel Jeans from his father's side, but she won't tell him which Nobel winner he comes from. So he grows up thinking that he's supposed to be this genius, but he doesn't manifest anything that's genius-like, and so he feels like he's letting his mother down. His mother has all these problems. She's kind of a recluse. It turns out that the mom is lying to him, and he has to realize who he actually is. On the back of the book it says, "What if you found out that you've been living a lie and that the truth was darker than you could ever have imagined? Does it matter where you come from? Are we all just made from dust?" And I thought that this was a really interesting concept. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It's a really small book, so it was really fast to read, but at the same time, it kind of felt like it sort of drug on just a little tiny bit. The thing that really was interesting about the story was that the author never gave the boy's name, but you're really rooting for this character to find the way to love himself and to love his mother and to accept who he is. Who you come from doesn't make you who you are. You choose who you want to be, and I thought that was one of the greatest parts of this book. This doesn't have a very good rating on Goodreads, but I do suggest reading it because it has a lesson in it that I believe is very important to know. The second book that I read during the Booktubeathon was The Realm of Possibilities by David Levithan, and I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. It is written in verse, one school, 20 voices, endless possibilities, just about all these different stories about people trying to find love and understand love. And what truly was fabulous about this book to me was it wasn't just your typical pairings of boyfriends, girlfriends, and also on top of that, I loved how it wasn't just a male and female relationship, it was also male-male relationship and female-female relationship.
And I don't know what accent this is. It was supposed to start off as Irish or Scottish. Now I don't even know what it is. So I'm really apologizing for that right now.
And I love how the first story and the last story come full circle. But the thing I didn't really love about the story was the reading experience. I didn't love how all the stories were written. Like, there was this one story where every line, it was like A, then B, then C, is going through the whole alphabet. And it just really didn't make it for an enjoyable read necessarily. But I loved the diversity in it and how David Levithan made it not your normal love stories. It's definitely unique, each single one of them, and I love how you get one perspective in the relationship and then eventually he comes back and gives you the other perspective in the relationship. And that was just really awesome fun. Now it's turning to Southern here.
Wow, what a roller coaster journey of accents instead of books.
Kind of got bored during some people's stories, but others were really interesting and engaging. It was just a lot of some were good, some were not as good. And the third and final book that I read during the booktubeathon was Crank by Ellen Hopkins, and this book follows a girl named Christina who has your typical average life. And then one summer she decides to go live with her father for an extended amount of time, and there she gets into drugs because her father does drugs, and when she comes home her whole life is affected by that. What begins as a wild ride turns into a struggle for her mind, her soul, her life. And what I really loved about this book was it showed all the repercussions of getting into drugs and how it doesn't just affect your life and your lifestyle, but it also affects your families and those who love you. And it's very hard to see someone you love go through all of this. And this book, was very sad. And while it is a very important story to read about, I highly recommend this for awareness. It was very, very important. It just wasn't my favorite book to read. It's very good, it just didn't love the story. I'm really conflicted what rating to give this. Probably like a 3.5 to a 3.75. Then I read Young Avengers Volume 1. I absolutely loved this comic. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and it follows all of these different superheroes. And there's Wiccan, who is the Scarlet Witch's son. Then we have Hulkling, and we have Hawkeye's daughter. So many different people. And we also have Kid Loki. And I absolutely loved Kid Loki. I found this reading another Loki comic book, and it had this asterisk on the side. And it's like, this little piece of the book is from this volume of a different comic book series
arc thing. And you might want to check that out if you want to know what's going on.
This artist and the colorist were absolutely beautiful in their work, and I think what I really loved most about this book was it had a gay couple in it, which you don't see much in comics, and so I thought that was absolutely amazing and great to have out there in the comic book community, especially for Marvel to have out there. This whole book follows something that Wiccan has done. He kind of feels bad about something, so then he uses his magic to try to make it better, and as a result of that, things spiral out of control. Can't wait to read Volume 2 and 3. And from there, I proceeded to read Black Cat Volume 12, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Volume 13, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. Then I read 14, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. And then I read Volume 15, which I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars to. And I absolutely love this Black Cat series. It follows a male protagonist named Train, who was previously a really well-known assassin. And from there, he decided that he didn't want to kill people, and he turns out to become a sweeper who basically hunts the bad guys, puts them into the justice system, then gets a monetary reward. And so instead of just giving them the easy way out of death, he makes them actually pay, and he leaves his assassin organization. This is his life afterwards, and I absolutely love this series. If you're really into action, and if you're really into just some good old-fashioned crime fighting, I really suggest this series. And what I really love about it is, even though the main character is a male, they also have this very strong female character who's named Eve, and it shows that you don't have to be a male in order to kick butt. You can be a female and be just as strong and be just as awesome, but while also being feminine. And then I read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I gave We Were Liars 4.25 out of 5 stars, and it follows this girl whose family is very rich. It's supposed to be the perfect American family, and on their summer vacations they go to this private island and just spend time there as a family. It's her mother, her aunts, and her cousins, and her grandparents. And then something happens one summer that she can't recall, and so therefore, like 2 summers later, she goes back and tries to figure out what happened. And this big twist that everyone talks about, I didn't find it that exciting. It felt like I've seen it in at least 2 movies already. I did not enjoy the female protagonist. I thought she was a little annoying, but I did really enjoy Gat. Something just really irked me about the twist, and Dylan from Dylan Books really explained my feelings for the most part about the twist in his review for it, so I'll leave that link down below because you should really check that out because it's exactly how I feel about it. And also he's an awesome booktuber, so that'll be left down below. It wasn't as amazing as I thought it could be, but it wasn't a horrible book. It wasn't. It just wasn't my favorite. And from there, I continued on with the Crank series and read its sequel, Glass, also by Ellen Hopkins. And this book, I gave a 3.5 out of 5 stars to it. To me, it wasn't as good as Crank, but I still thought it was a very, very important story. It was just not my favorite book in general. I think it was basically just because I didn't like Christina. Just her choices were just not the smartest choices, and that's exactly what the author's trying to show, but at the same time, for some reason, it didn't sit well with me. I thought, you know, she should have gotten help, and she just absolutely refused help and just continued to spiral out of control. Addiction is a very scary, consuming thing, and I think Ellen Hopkins does a really, really amazing job of showing that, especially because this book is loosely based off of her daughter and that experience, but at the same time, it just wasn't my favorite novel to just read. And the second last book that I read in the month of August was Eden West, and I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And when I first saw it sitting on the library shelf, I thought, you know, I'm not even going to go near that. For some reason, whenever I see someone with a gun and a fence, I think of World War II. I don't know why, I just do. And I'm like, I don't want to read a World War II book. And then my sister's like, oh, just get it. So I got it, and from the inside cover, obviously, it doesn't say anything about a world war. It doesn't sound like a World War book at all.
Misconception, sorry world.
And then, next thing I know, I'm reading it, and it doesn't sound like the inside jacket either. And I think that the book is so much better than what it tries to describe it as. This book actually follows this teenage boy named Jacob who lives in a cult. And his parents decided to live there with him when he was very young. So he doesn't really recall what the outside world is like, but he has a vague recollection of it. And it is his job to go around the fence and check the perimeter for any breaches.
Not breaches, breaches.
And from there on, he meets this girl from the outside, and he becomes friends with her. And from there, he sort of questions, is this life that I'm living, is it right? Is it wrong? Is everything going on normal? Should this actually be going on? This really, really fascinated me. The reason I took off a half star was because of the ending. It left it kind of open-ended, and I would have liked a definite answer to something about Jacob. But it's more like, you know, options are open. I've never read a book about any type of cult or anyone in a cult, and therefore it's just really, really fascinating to me to think that you could have this certain mindset. And what I really enjoyed about this book was while he was questioning his religion and what was going on in his community, there were other people who thought the community was absolutely stupid, who thought they were crazy, and there were people in the community who's like, this is the way and the only way to be saved. And you see how different people react and say things because of what they know. It's a very, very fascinating book to read, and I honestly really loved it, and I really, really suggest it as well. And last but certainly not least, I read Gargoyle, the first book in the Butterfly Mountain series, and this is by the lovely Better Hero Army. Me and my sister got this for review, and we did a dual review, and I'll leave that down below. But this was such an enjoyable novel. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and so did my sister Christian, and it follows this girl named Tiffany, who actually was killed under mysterious circumstances, and when she wakes up from her death, she has wings, and from there she is recruited into this ghost hunter corps, and she has to figure out sort of the mystery behind her death, why she was killed, how it happened, was she murdered? She and her kind are now supposed to protect the human world from the ghosts that are out there and refused to move on after their death. And I just thought that was a very fascinating concept. I love the history in this book of why the world is how it is, and how certain things came to be and these people's backgrounds. I absolutely loved it. And what's also really awesome about this book is that it's illustrated. There are 20 illustrations by this wonderful artist by the name of Miimork, and she has a DeviantArt page, which I will leave down below. And they have this really anime like feel to them, and I think they're just absolutely amazing. And for some reason I kept thinking of Blue Exorcist style drawing. I don't know why, I just did, and I thought they were absolutely amazing, and I think you should really check out this book. It's sort of a urban fantasy mixed with paranormal. I love how it portrays gargoyles and what gargoyles are. Tiffany, well, she had died, and in her new life, she's your typical teenage girl still. She's still insecure. She feels like she's just this small Asian American who is very clumsy. And our favorite character was definitely, I'm not positive on how you say her name, so I'm really sorry if it's wrong, but Hideka, and she is just kick-butt character.
Who is a bookworm? What more can I possibly want in a character, like, honestly?
The author, I believe, is such a diverse author. He can go from writing zombies to writing about gargoyles. So what can you say about that? It's really, really fascinating. And he's coming out with a fan art book, which is really cool because anytime I see a book with illustrations in it or some sort, you know, with manga, they always have like fan art guides, and so that's really, really cool that that's coming out and that's going to be a thing, and I'm really excited about that because I love to draw, and so does my sister, and that's just going to be really awesome to see and to like create your own personal extension of the book through art, which I think is just so awesome. And I'm rambling now. I really recommend this people to, especially I think middle graders. This video's quote is a quote not necessarily from a book, but the quote that I really enjoy, and that is, "Don't tell me that the sky's the limit when there are footprints on the moon." I absolutely love that quote. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. What books did you read in the month of August that you really enjoyed? What was your favorite book, and what was your least favorite book? Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a great rest of your day. Bye! It had happily ever and his mother
And you don't need to know just about the people who helped create even a baby.
And it shows that you don't have to be a male to be a bad butt kicker of butts. And I wasn't totally reading it like, this is so fun to read. It's so fun to read. No.